Alright, welcome back. In today's video I wanted to talk about a subject that is pretty common for most people, which is if they're dealing with debt. And when you're dealing with financial issues of this kind, again, it's very important that we grasp that the way we're using our consciousness is going to determine and help us get out of financial troubles that we might have. In other words, life is always a state of consciousness. The quality of our lives depend on how we're using our minds. Now, this is also why I was trained and told over the years that focusing on the debts I would have is not going to do me any good. It sounds contradicting because in a way you want to get rid of it, right? You want to get rid of all those bills that are still piled up. Maybe of hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or even over $100,000 in debt, and then you're told that you shouldn't focus on that at all. Sounds kind of bizarre, isn't it, at first? So I don't know about you, but in my case, I mean, the biggest amount of debt I ever had in my life amounts to a few $100s at max. So it's not that extreme in my case, I would say, but some people out there might be dealing with very extreme cases, and then it might get overwhelming for them to get out of that place. And as long as you feel overwhelmed by what happened to you on a financial level, well, that is also what's going to keep you stuck. It's what's going to make it more difficult for you to outgrow that situation that you're facing right now concerning all of this money that you need to fix, that you need to get somehow in order to fix it, right? Well, as the title of this video suggests, your focus shouldn't be on getting out of debt. Your focus should be kept on prosperity instead. Now, the prosperity idea happens inside your consciousness, just as debt happens inside your consciousness. Now, I want you to really think about it. Of course, I don't know your particular situation right now, but I can share with you a couple ideas that have helped me, that I've passed along to other people who were in debt, and they could readily admit, well, this angle that you tell me that I should look at it, if I look at it from this angle, well, they start to feel a lot more positive, and that's the first step. You want to get rid of that discomfort you have around the situation in your own life and learn to feel great. I went as far as to say to this person in question, you know, you should feel great about that. At first it sounds really weird, doesn't it? I mean, again, depending on how big it is, that might make no sense to you. You're like, why should I feel great about this? This is not fun. This company, collection agencies, whatever, they're constantly contacting me, but where's the money? They're like, when are you gonna pay? Pay us now, or we're gonna take your stuff. Of course, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, right? The point here is that if you can start feeling great, regardless of the circumstances you face, you'll create it so that your mind can come up with better ideas through which you can actually solve the problem to begin with. And as long as you're in a negative vibration, which with that we mean feeling negative, thinking negatively about the situation, you'll be unable to get proper ideas in order to actually fix the problem. Now that's the idea behind it, that we shouldn't be focusing on the debt itself, but on prosperity. I wrote a couple of things here. How does a person get wealthy? And well, they perhaps won't do it overnight. People do want it overnight a lot of the times, but 99% of the time it won't happen. Unless someone with great influence boosts your sales or makes you known to millions so rapidly that it might happen. But the best way to build wealth is by understanding that it's about the cultivation and circulation of rich ideas. Ideas of wealth and success. And as we cultivate it inside our minds and then learn to circulate it through our actions in life itself, things will happen and there's no escape. It is something that boils down to what we would say an exact science, where failure becomes impossible. That is pretty important for you to grasp, that even though right now it might seem pointless or hopeless for you, the situation that you're in, failure becomes impossible. In this case, it becomes impossible for you to stay stuck in debt if you truly understand how to use your mind to outgrow it. Now that is perhaps very important for people to grasp, that failure becomes impossible for us when we know how to use our minds effectively. So what did I tell this other person? And what would I suggest you as the viewer? Well, I'll suggest the same as I did with them in private. First of all, you want to understand that debt is a situation where we have two options. We can look at it from a negative angle or from a positive, hopeful angle. And we always want to work with the positive and hopeful side of life so that we keep expanding in that direction. Because whatever has our attention expands within consciousness and ultimately in our physical lives. So what I told them to do is Just think about this. You have this certain amount of debt with them, and it was pretty high. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's in the thousands. At least that's what they told me. But even if you have such a situation, I told them, well, let's look at this from a positive angle. Well, at first they couldn't think of any positive angle. They actually don't want to talk about it necessarily, because it makes them feel uncomfortable. It might make you feel uncomfortable. So what's the positive angle in the case of that? Well, first of all, the person you owe the money to allowed you to have a certain product or service so that you could do something that you wanted to do at a certain period of your life that you wanted to have. All right, now you have to pay them back, of course. But that's one step that you can take already, is to realize, well, because they allowed me to have this product or service already, that's actually a positive and pretty awesome thing of them to do. So in this case, we can talk about student loans as well. There's a lot of students out there, I've heard stories, I read them all the time about students in America that have huge debts of tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then they feel bad, they want to escape it, right? At first we would say, well, that makes sense that you want to escape it. But they are forgetting to look at it from a positive angle. It's that the government allowed them to take this course that they wanted to take at a certain period of their lives. Perhaps they realized it wasn't the right thing for them. Or maybe they did succeed, but now they're still struggling to pay it back, to pay off that debt. Well, again, it allowed you to do something that you wanted to do at a certain period of time. And that doesn't happen everywhere in the world. So in a way, it's like you were blessed. You were allowed to do something that you wanted to do. That's already approaching it from a more positive angle. Now the second step that you can do is that you want to change your mind about the concept of debt. You want to start focusing on prosperity, because once you start focusing on being wealthy inside your consciousness, that is when the ideas for wealth start to flow. Now an example in my own life, with just a few $100s in debt over the years, it might happen at times randomly where I might invest a little bit too much money in stuff and then I have to pay it back later. But I did realize for myself, if I want to get rid of this constant debt, how would I go about it? Well, I started to cultivate rich ideas in my consciousness. I started to feel wealthy, even though I would have been in debt physically. But inside my mind, I started to work with ideas of wealth, with the belief that I could become wealthy and get rid of this debt automatically. Because the more wealthy you are, the easier it is to avoid being in debt, unless you were spending insane amounts of money to the point that you're still being a little, well, stupid with how you're using your cash. But this is what I started to do. The more you focus on wealth, whatever that means for you, the faster you can get out of the debt. Another thing you want to understand is, if you have a huge debt, it's also like you're being dared to make that amount of money for yourself. That can actually be an empowering thing. So if you have like $10,000, $50,000 in debt, right now you don't know how to pay it. Right now you might not have the resources to pay it off. But it's almost like these people are indirectly daring you to make that amount of money so that you can pay them off. And once you learn how to make that amount of money, you can keep doing it and become a very wealthy person in the process. So again, that's another positive angle to look from, to observe this situation in your life, because that's how you're starting to feel and look with the eyes of prosperity from within yourself. Because life is a state of consciousness. So this is why we say you don't want to focus on the debt itself. You want to work with ideas of wealth. Now most people might be like, what does that mean exactly? What does that mean, working with ideas of wealth? And what we mean by that is that you start to imagine inside your consciousness that you already have the amount of money you want to have. You start to simply imagine in your mind that you already have it, and then you start to feel. How would it make you feel if you already had that amount of money? If it's a lot of money you need, you would automatically feel very wealthy if you had the money right now. If you're honest with yourself, that's exactly what you're going to find out. You're going to feel so great, empowered and strong and satisfied and comfortable that you have that amount of money to do whatever you want. And that is where you are switching frequencies within your mind. You see, what most people do in a situation like that is they're only focusing on the fact that they don't have the money, they need to pay it somehow, they don't know how, and they're getting so frustrated and anxiety takes over, they're uncomfortable, they're stressed out every day. But all they had to do is switch the frequencies inside their minds. switch their point of focus, of intention, switch what they're using their willpower on. So instead of having debt hold you, you want to have a prosperity hold you instead. You want to train yourself by the ability to focus using your willpower to stay aimed at the solution. And the solution would be greater wealth, more money for you in your bank account. Now, how does money come into your bank account? Well, let's think about it. Let's be honest. Most people would say money comes into your bank account if you work, okay? So you have a huge debt, for example. What are you gonna do? Work like crazy to make that money? That's not how I suggest you do it. No millionaire ever taught me that over my life so far, that I should work like crazy, right? To make millions. No. What we want to do is simply line ourselves up from within with the prosperity we seek without ourselves, or from the without, in the outside world, in the physical world. And then it starts to flow with and through us. The ideas start to shift by this attitude of mind. Once the ideas start to shift, you'll be able to create greater wealth in your life. So that's, again, the whole point behind this, is that when you start focusing, instead of all the worries, you start focusing through your imagination on the amount of money you want and need in this moment of time. And then you notice that ideas start to flow on how you could. Yes, I can do this. I can see others doing this. You can find people out there who might be making the amount that you're in debt on a daily basis. No joke. There are people that make tens of thousands of dollars a day. Perhaps if you earn that money, you could pay off your debt instantly, right? So why block that idea out of your mind by saying, for me personally, that's not possible. That's so unrealistic. Well, listen to this. Everything in life that we want to improve, that we want to outgrow, can only happen for us as long as consciousness is in alignment with that improvement. We don't want to look at the outside world alone and trying to figure it out all over there. So your debt exists in the outside world. Don't let it control your consciousness. That's what we're always saying. Let your consciousness be controlled and dominated by visions and feelings of wealth. If you do this in the right way, what happens is that you'll feel a relief. You'll feel like a weight is falling off your shoulders. You don't feel as intimidated by any financial issues you might have, because you know to trust in yourself. You know that it's all about how you're using your mind and what it's focused upon. If we're really honest with ourselves again, you can clearly tell that if you're focused on that, it doesn't feel empowering to you. But once you start focusing on wealth, you'll start to feel empowered. You'll start to believe in yourself once you allow this to happen. The idea of believing in ourselves is another thing that we need to allow ourselves to feel. So you need to allow yourself to feel that, yes, I can outgrow this financial issue I might now face in my physical world. Now, what does that do? Well, I noticed for myself when I start doing this is that I, for example, take a document on my computer, or I could write it on a piece of paper. I start to write out, okay, what is this debt all about? I just do that superficially. I just write it out. I'm like, okay, this is the amount of money that I owe these people or this company, whatever. So I need to make that money, and once I do, then I'm gone. Then I'm rid of the debt. Then I'm suddenly free. Alright? What intimidates most people, especially if it's a huge amount of money, what intimidates them again is the thought that it might not be possible for them to do this. Who gave you that silly idea? Anything is possible for you. Nobody can tell you what you're capable of doing. So it even means that in the amount of money you could earn, nobody can actually tell you how much money you could earn. But the thing is, we have to learn about this. We have to seek out the right people. And the beautiful thing about all of this is these days you can find books or videos online where people freely talk and share their wisdom and their skills about how you could fix this issue in your own life. This is one of those videos that is being shared to you freely, with ideas that you can start thinking about. Maybe you've not approached your situation from this angle, but once you start doing that, things will improve drastically for you. Now, this is also why some authors from the past would write, in their own ways, riches received out of nowhere or too fast without adjusting consciousness to it is dangerous, for it can cause many to become controlled by their own wealth. And if they don't know how to create and succeed properly, they will one day lose it, so the scriptures are fulfilled. To him that hath shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. To him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he has. So it's another way of saying the rich will get richer and the poor will only get more poor in life. These are all pretty logical things if we think about it, but most people don't like it one bit due to our own ignorance on this matter. So if we change the words around that we just mentioned with you, we could say the following. To him that hath an understanding and awareness of the power of his own consciousness and how it alters and creates his reality, more will be given to that person, they will prosper. To the people that don't have that awareness, ignorance and lack of awareness, shall be taken away even that which they seem to have. So in your case, you have a choice. Are you going to focus on the debt, or are you going to focus on the solution? The solution, again, is through the cultivation and circulation of rich ideas. With this we mean, first you cultivate an idea of wealth in your consciousness. You see exactly the amount of money you would want. And then you learn to circulate it. What we mean by this is that you learn to act on your own ideas. The ideas you start to attract by a wealthy consciousness. This really happens. I can guarantee it to you. I'm not lying, I'm not joking. If you hold an idea of wealth in your consciousness, you'll notice new ideas start to flow to your mind. And once you then circulate those ideas by acting upon them, that is when you are in the process of outgrowing any financial issues you might now face. And then hopefully you also stay smart in how you are investing and spending your money, so you hopefully don't have debts near down the line again. Because of course, without debts, everything feels more calm and free and positive. But so many people are stuck in that area. Their finances are all messed up. I've been like that for many years myself, I'm not gonna lie. Even though I was studying consciousness, but finances, I was always like, I don't really care. Then again, I never spent a lot of money anyway. So as I said, my debts were never very huge. That's might be the difference between you and me. But the solution is always the same. Even with a little bit of debt, again, you gotta use your consciousness in the right way. Focus it on wealth, prosperity. Then watch what happens to the ideas you start to think and come up with. And these ideas also start to come through other people. That's the very fascinating aspect of it all as well. Now, if the debt is small, most companies, in most cases, you can set up a payment plan to pay it off over a certain period of time. If the debt is very huge and large, it might take many years. However, that might be a first step at least to calm down that anxiety you have concerning the finances. And then if you take the ideas we share through this video and through my channel in general, you can start to aim it from that more positive place, that foundation of calmness, that you're not that stressed out over the debt because you at least have a sort of payment plan going on, where you at least show these people that you are willing to pay them back. They start bothering you less and less as well. Well, then you have the foundation from which you can really start to put things into high gear, really start focusing on wealth. And understand that the wealthiest people on the planet are the people that serve the most people. So the wealthiest people on the planet work with ideas, with creations, with things they create and share and do on a large scale for other people, and through that lots of wealth is flowing and generated. This is something you can truly see happen all around you with people who are supposedly so rich right now. If we really stop and think about it, the people who are the richest are also serving the most people out there, or at least they're probably serving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people a year to the activities they are involved in themselves. But yet most people limit this flow of wealth just to their day job, and then because of that hourly income they can't see how they could possibly make back the money they need in order to get rid of this financial issue. But to get rid of that financial issue, you're going to have to learn how prosperity is created in life. First, it's a state of mind. Then the state of mind must be felt deeply. You must literally feel passion and desire to make this happen, to achieve it, to earn the amount of money you want to earn, to solve all of those current issues you have. Once you're connected and hooked up from within with the prosperity mindset, then you'll start to become more creative on how you can actually earn it and what you could do and share with humanity, so that finally wealth starts to flow into your life and the debts slowly but surely disappear. Now let that sink in, because that is the approach I would suggest you take. Again, do not focus on getting out of debt. Keep your focus on prosperity instead. That is what will cause the right ideas to flow to you. That is also what causes that relief to come over you, where you know things will be alright. It will be alright if you're willing to do what's necessary. And what's necessary, all that's necessary for anyone in the world, is to make sure that their consciousness is operating in harmony with what they really want. And because you have a consciousness, you can do just that. Don't worry so much about everybody complaining, where's the money, this and that. You can set up a payment plan, even if it is a little bits of money. That is a start to at least show them that you're willing to pay them back, so that they stop bothering you less and less. And then understand, if I can feel wealthy inside my mind, inside my consciousness, then I can be wealthy on the physical side of life as well. But the people who only entertain wealth on the conscious level of the mind, who do not truly feel wealthy, they're the people who become delusional and are not really acting in that certain specific way that will create wealth for us. So then we might observe people just saying, oh, I'm wealthy, but they're not doing anything, right? There's a lot of people that make that mistake. But once you start to feel wealthy and feel it deeply, then you'll be compelled to act in totally different ways, in totally new ways. Your whole life will become even a greater adventure than it already is. And through all those new activities that you become compelled to take, you'll start to see the power that your conscience always held. A power that you might have not been aware of up until this moment in your life. But this is what you understand. You cannot grow any debt you're facing through the right use of your consciousness. And the right use of your consciousness is to keep it hooked up in harmony with whatever you desire, and magnify that desire for wealth in this case, so that you can become wealthy once and for all. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.